Hello, my name is Philip Brady, and I run Vitamin P Coaching, and it's a coaching and leadership development business. And I'm so excited about some of the work that I'm really lucky to be able to do. And what I wanted to walk you through today is really a workshop that I designed called Leading Through Change, but it's also called kind of Living and Leading Wholeheartedly. And you'll see a little bit more about that throughout the presentation. Why I start off with this slide is because there's a story from U Squared by Price Pritchett, and it's that the fly is relentlessly banging into a window. It's under the illusion that if I try harder, I'll achieve the goal, which is to get outside the window. And what it doesn't realize is it will die trying harder under the illusion that if I try harder, I'll achieve the thing, which is to get outside. What it doesn't realize is there's an open door to the right, just a couple of meters away. And so I want to invite you to think about there may be another way to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And I think that that's really exciting to consider. And I want to invite you to think about that during this presentation. I also just want to give you a quick intro to myself. My wife is Katie. She's top left. Really lucky to be married to her and to have her support. One of my best friends, Mary, is 96, and she was 96 at the end of March. And I'm really lucky to have her and her wisdom in my life. I have an adopted cat called Ludi, an adopted dog called Elvis. And then the next slide I'm about to share, I talked in front of a couple of hundred people last year in a conference. And really what I want to try and invite you to think about is change, and how the image that we get of change is this. It ignores the cocoon. It ignores the messy middle. We think change is from old world to new world with nothing in between. And so when we encounter that in between, we judge change, we judge ourselves and other people changing as bad or wrong because they're not changing quick or as quickly as we're expecting. And again, the invitation is to accept reality, which is the cocoon phase as part of change. And that kind of transition from known world to unknown world, but absolutely the benefits of moving towards that unknown, and to be able to have the support or just the acceptance of the experience of that. I want to invite you to consider. So as part of change, and when I'm doing this in person in workshops, we do a really simple kind of fun exercise to embody the reaction to change. But what I want to try and invite you to think about is it's normal to feel awkward in times of change. Typically, you're moving from something that you knew who you were, you knew what you used to do, into an unknown world. And so you're going to feel awkward because you're not really sure what you're doing, what you need to do, who's around, what you need to do for them, all that kind of stuff. The next thing is we always think about what we have to give up, what we have to leave behind. And sometimes that can serve us. We're carrying more often than we need to carry. And so choosing what to give up and deconstructing can be really helpful as we reconstruct and construct the future that we want to live into. And so giving up the right stuff is actually a really useful thing. The next one is that typically, even though we may be in a room full of people, a company full of people going through change, we experience it individually. We forget that other people are going through change. We feel it really deeply as an isolating experience. But actually, when we partner with other people during times of change and we share the challenges or the frustrations or the doubts or the fears that we're experiencing, it makes a massive difference. And so again, that's just a part of change. It is normal. And this is an invitation to accept that. We can only handle so much change as well. And so we get change fatigue. If we change too much too often, we'll retreat back to what we've known before. And this is why New Year, New Me on January 1st does not work, cannot work. We're also different levels of readiness. So, I mean, we experience change differently. You'll experience it differently than me. My tolerance for stress and change is quite high. Yours might be a little bit lower, or yours might be higher than mine. We shouldn't compare. It makes a massive difference. The other is we'll be concerned we're going to run out of stuff. If we see change as a losing game or a giving up of stuff, we'll think that we're going to run out of resources fairly quickly. Typically, it's time, energy, and attention. And then the last one is if we take pressure off you, we go back to our old behaviors. So if you fold your arms a certain way and you try to change them the other way, your body and mind have to kind of kick in and interrupt an old way of being. And so that takes some time. And so instead of judging that, think about change as folding your arms the opposite way. It'll feel a little bit weird. It'll feel a little bit awkward, but it's absolutely something that you can grow more used to the more that you do it. And so I always try and build in nature to my work and to some of my workshops. And this is a hermit crab, and hermit crabs experience stress when they're outgrowing or have already outgrown the current shell that they're in. So if you relate this to you, that could be your current reality, what's going on for you at the moment, all that kind of stuff. you have to leave the safety, the certainty, the security of that existing shell and move into this kind of messy middle, this part where you're vulnerable, you're exposed. Again, you feel awkward, you feel alone, you are under threat. Somebody could attack you, all this kind of stuff. And then you enter into a larger shell, more expansive, and then you grow and you stretch into that. And again, stress when you experience the restriction of the container that you've grown into, you then grow into a new shell and have to leave that existing one, and then the cycle repeats. And this is forever. And the work is, as leaders and as coaches, is we help people leave behind their old shell. We argue for why moving forward is useful and the confines or the containment or the restriction of the current shell. We help people move through the uncertainty of the messy middle, and then we help people live into bigger shells, bigger versions of who they are, or at least more expansive and definitely open to growth and contribution. And if you're a leader, if you're a coach, you're doing all of this while you're holding more than is yours to hold. So typically as a coach or as a leader, you're going to have this stuff projected onto you. You're going to get the shadow side of leadership projected. You're going to get the doubt, the despair, the frustration, the anxiety, the fear, all that kind of stuff will get pushed up as a projection onto you because you're the leader. You're the person that's meant to know, is meant to steer, all that kind of stuff. And so this is one of the invitations to support yourself through times of change and to support other people through change. I want to invite you to make sure that you're looking after yourself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, let me just move forward. I want to show you how change shows up in your body. So I'm actually going to stop sharing here. I'm going to hide non-video. I'm going to do this. And I've never done this before, so please excuse me if this works or if it doesn't work. I'm going to try and share my screen. Only the host can share. That's cool. Let's do this. Make host. Change host. Okay, wait till you see this. I haven't done this before. Share screen. Start broadcast. Okay, here we go. This is exciting. So I have this open, and you'll see this funny thing on my ear, right? Is a what's called a HeartMath, I don't know, sensor. And I've bought this just to show people what goes on in times of stress. So I'm recording this. I'm not nervous, but I'm definitely just paying attention to, let me make sure that this is on Do Not Disturb, or you'll see texts coming in from my mum. I don't know what it's going to say. But you'll see the number on top and you'll see how speckled all of this is. So this means that I'm a little bit stressed, right? But you'll also see the light in the middle glowing, and now it's reducing, and then it'll start expanding. In times of stress, your heart rate variability, so let me show you this. You'll see the middle one here is very jagged. It's not very smooth, but it's also in this app giving me guidance on regulating my breathing. And typically the rhythm of your breathing is more impactful. So you'll see here now, it's telling me to breathe in quite smoothly and then to breathe out. So just watch my heart rate variability live as I follow this breathing, and my heart will gradually increase. The coherence number at the top will increase. So just watch this. So again, your body experiences change as threat. It goes into a more sympathetic state. So sympathetic is not sympathy with other people. It's a kind of fight, flight, freeze response. So see the way the curve is jagged in the middle, my heart rate variability. Just watch this. All I'm going to do is regulate my breathing for just about a minute. See the difference in the curve. Look at my coherence score. It's gone from 1 up to 7, right? Beautiful, right? Look at the difference. So now I'm going to try and I'll make it a little bit more jagged. I'm just not going to regulate my breathing. But again, you could imagine while you're listening to somebody, while you're speaking, to be able to change your heart rate variability and be able to tell your body that it's safe just by regulating your breathing. So look already, my signal is changing. The heart rate variability is increasing a lot, but it'll decrease now because I'm not paying attention to my breathing. It's profound when we do this, the impact it has on our recovery, our energy, our focus, our ability to make good decisions, all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to show you live what happens so that then the slides that I show you will make sense. And I can take off my, let me end this session. So I got a couple of points. I did some good work. Pretty cool. Let me end this. Stop share. Let me make me the host. Screen broadcasting. Okay. Participants. Let me go to this one. Make host. Okay. It's pretty cool, right? I love this stuff. Makes me so excited. So I'm gonna leave on my phone. Okay, beautiful. So let's keep going. So I've never been able to do that live. It makes me so excited. It's so cool. So now you see, this is what happens in times of change. When you're not regulating your nervous system, when you're not regulating our body's response to change, stress, threat, meetings, and sometimes it's people with authority or more experience than us that can increase that feeling of, this is a situation I need to be guarded for, I need to be aware of, or whatever. And it increases this chaos in our heart rate variability versus this calm, regulated state. And you saw this from my heart rate variability during that quick demonstration. This is why I'm so excited about this stuff. So this is really the balance between parasympathetic and sympathetic states. So we have two nervous systems roughly. Sympathetic is fight, flight, freeze. The world will trigger sympathetic nervous system. We must kind of cultivate or create a little bit more parasympathetic tones. Vitamin P, my business, is related to parasympathetic activity. I believe the world needs more parasympathetic activity using our physiology, generating passion or energy for in the moment, and then directing that towards a meaningful future or purpose. So those 3 Ps: physiology, passion, purpose, using parasympathetic activity. So the invitation is to increase our ability to be sympathetic. I mean, that's just got to come from daily life. Parasympathetic activity, on the other hand, is a little bit more around stuff we need to create and cultivate a little bit more. Let me move. Here's a normal day activity. Normal day, get up. Coffee will add a little bit of sympathetic activity because it elevates your heart rate. And if you're already in a stress state, it's going to just increase the anxiety level of that within your system, which puts you into a little bit more of a threat response. More coffee, maybe you go for a run. And this is then balanced with really good recovery, good sleep. So you'll see here on the right, this kind of green zone, really useful for a typical day of activity. Under threat, in times of change, and you will see this show up in yourself and other people. Left is sympathetic, right is parasympathetic. Left, you zone in. Your mind can only focus on the smallest possible thing that feels like the biggest threat. So we focus on that because we're in this new environment. We must pay attention to threat, and we make, let's say it's an email from somebody, we make that small thing feel like the biggest thing. Versus parasympathetic activity or tone, we're able to widen our perspective. We're able to take in more information. We're able to navigate the environment in a much more thoughtful, intentional way, rather than reactive on the left from a sympathetic state. Left is, we need to make binary decisions quick because we're under threat. We can only see certain things. We have to make decisions really quickly. So again, I'm going to try and show you how your mind and your emotions plays tricks on you in times of change so that you're better equipped to accept that this is true. I'm happy to be wrong about everything I share, but when you notice this is true for yourself and then other people, you're less judgmental, again, of yourself, other people, and change, and you're more likely to move and grow through times of change. So these are a couple of the cognitive distortions, the mind biases or kind of thought hiccups, I'll call them, that show up in times of stress. All or nothing, again, is that we zone in on the smallest thing. Let's say you're doing a presentation or a meeting. Either it goes perfectly or it was awful. Either everybody listens to you or nobody listened to you. We can't hold that one person didn't listen, therefore that doesn't mean that nobody else did. We focus in on the one person that didn't. Top right is fortune telling. We think we can predict the future, and typically that will steer towards a negative. And that again, all of this is designed to move us back to today because today is safe. So we hold back from growing into the future. We hold back from reaching out and collaborating with other people because that may mean that we're losing. The binoculars is minimization. So this is where in times of stress and chaos and feeling like we're under threat in a sympathetic state, we minimize our strengths, our skills, our experience that could help us deal with the challenge in front of us. So imagine looking back or looking through binoculars the wrong way around. Everything seems really far away and in the distance. That's typically what happens to us, again, with our skill, our experience, our confidence, all those kind of things in times of stress and chaos. The right one is tunnel vision. So again, we narrow in on the smallest thing that could go wrong or did go wrong, and we forget about widening our perspective to include more. Again, what that's going to do is just invite us to stay the same, to keep us where we are, to retreat away from challenge, to retreat away from the unknown because it feels dangerous. So again, what I'm trying to invite you to do is to accept that this will show up. When it is showing up, it's an invitation to keep moving forward because this is showing you change is happening, growth is happening, keep moving forward. Bottom left is catastrophizing. This is where you think about Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And bottom right is emotional reasoning. So for example, I showed you my heart rate variability during this presentation. In times of stress and chaos, because I feel nervous, we rationalize the emotion and say, then that must mean that I can't speak in front of people. And it's bullshit. It's just made up. It's not true. So the invitation is not to say, don't experience emotions. It's to take them that doesn't justify certain behaviors, which are typically moving you away from the challenge at hand. Instead, this is all an invitation to say, you're in a slightly more sympathetic or stressed state. You're growing. Balance and regulate your nervous system so that you can recover, recharge, widen your perspective a little bit more, take in more of reality, and grow through and go through the challenge in front of you. The other thing about this is emotions will play tricks on you. And as you think about a sailor sailing over the horizon into the unknown, using the stars to navigate that unknown, our emotions, I believe, help us navigate the uncertainty and the challenges that help us navigate our lives. And so we think about emotions as away from, towards, away from, towards, away from, towards. When we feel pain, that emotion is telling us, move away from that. Something here is painful. When we feel joy or excitement, we want to move towards that. Accepting that both of these are just sources of information. They are not who we are. And I'll underline that. Just because we feel an emotion does not mean that that's who we are. If you feel anxiety, you're feeling anxiety. It does not make you an anxious person. It just means you're experiencing anxiety, which is a normal part of increased stress, increased cortisol in your system. So increased cortisol and elevated heart rate. And I'll show you a little bit about that as well. So emotions, again, signal, information, helping us navigate the environment. Again, when we go into the unknown, typically the emotions we feel will be a little bit more negative to keep us safe. But they can also be full of excitement and joy and energy. And so again, we are built for growing into new environments, new communities of people, but we will always have negative emotions to keep us company. And that's why one of the invitations as well is to accept that life and yourself and other people all contain a combination of bright and dark energy, or bright and dark emotions, bright and dark thoughts, whatever you want to use. Typically, the dark side will look after itself. Life will throw challenge at you. It will throw dark sides at you all the time. And I invite you to think that we need to cultivate and create the bright side. When we notice it with attention, we must then figure out what we did at that time, who we spent time with, what we were doing, so we can recreate and cultivate those emotions a little bit more often. And then we get more of a balanced perspective in life rather than just feeling weighed down by the dark and the negative. And again, I said to you earlier on, we typically navigate change as leaders and coaches, carrying other stuff, carrying other people's stuff, holding more than is ours to hold. And this is typically related to this image. We will hold the projections of stress, doubt, insecurity, anxiety, fear, frustration, all those kind of things. All the dark side energy will be projected onto us to test as leaders, can we hold it? And so in times of uncertainty, you're not just holding your own stuff, your own emotions, your own thoughts. You're holding your collective, your community, your employees, your team members. And that's why we must resource ourselves. And so when I think about this, left-hand side, I just call it sympathetic. I call it fear. Right-hand side, I'm calling love, but it can really just be a regulated nervous system or more recovered. Left is negative energy. Let's call this cortisol in your system. Right-hand side is positive energy. I think the letters are DHEA, but it's really just a kind of recovered, more recharged state. Low energy is a lower heart rate. High energy, higher heart rate. So let's stay left. So I want wholehearted leaders, which is a balance of these two things, sympathetic state and parasympathetic. When we then can navigate between this and the emotions within, we can be accepting of the negative energy emotions that are going to keep us alive, but are also a signal that we need to do something different. And we can also accept that good emotions can show up, and we can start cultivating and creating them. On the left-hand side with survival, this is elevated heart rate, increased cortisol in our system. So you will experience more emotions like stress, frustration, anxiety, and anger. So typically when we're experiencing those things, our heart rate is high and our cortisol is high as well. And so this again is information. I didn't have a map for emotions before I came across images like this and kind of tools like this. So the present psychologist I found this on, and I just think it was a beautiful invitation for me who's trying to reconnect with, I understand emotions and stuff conceptually, but I didn't understand it embodied. And so now I use tools like this and kind of models like this to help me understand what I'm experiencing in my body. So now I know increased cortisol, elevated heart rate, I need to lower my heart rate and relax. And that helps me experience less of these emotions. When my heart rate lowers and I still have an increased cortisol, I'm going to feel depressed, drained, sad, and exhausted. That's that burnout stage. So too much stress for too long. And then at the end of the day, when our heart rate is lowered, these are the emotions that we feel. Moving from there over to the right-hand side, again, when we notice these positive emotions, it's because we're in a more relaxed or regulated state between, again, sympathetic, parasympathetic activity or tone. We experience more of these, and I'll give you a really simple tool that you can use to be able to do that. Let's do positive energy, elevated heart rate. You're going to feel more things like challenged, connected, excited, ecstatic. If I lower your heart rate, keeping you relaxed or recharged, you're going to feel more peaceful, relaxed, carefree, and a sense of relief. And so this kind of tool, I believe, is moving us away from fear to create and cultivate a little bit more leading from and living from a state of love, or at least a wholehearted, a little bit more balanced. There's not a bad, I mean, we don't want to spend too much time on the left, but it's also just accepting that these emotions are there rather than judging them as bad, because that will gravitate us towards them. We want to be able to take it a signal to cultivate and create a little bit more of the right-hand side. So we're in this balanced nervous system and we're flowing with the flow of life. Because again, life is going to be a flow. We shouldn't judge emotions as they show up. We should just accept them. But cultivating and creating a little bit more on the right-hand side is really helpful. And this is how you do it. You cultivate with attention. So when I feel whatever the emotion is, well, then we can recreate that intentionally using this really simple formula, just as an example. So I feel, I'll give you a bad rule and then let's play with this, right? I feel successful when I have a Ferrari. So I've just put success into the future and I won't feel successful today or right now because I don't have a Ferrari. Instead, if I say, I feel successful when I have a drink of blackcurrant in a glass, inside, in the warmth, being able to do Zoom calls for people that I love and care about, well, then I'll feel really successful right now. So think about the emotions you want to feel more often. What are they? It could be excitement, it could be joy, it could just be relaxed, it could be peaceful, it could be connected, it could be present. I feel relaxed, connected, present when I take a sip of water and just notice the sensation of it. I feel relaxed and at peace when I look out at nature or I walk in nature once a week or once a month, right? We can create and cultivate these emotions a little bit more. And there's a story from Crossing the Unknown Sea, Work as a Pilgrimage of Identity by David Whyte, a beautiful book. this is a bird, it's an albatross chick. And albatross birds are born on the Galapagos Islands. And they, once they are laid on the, the island, they hatch over a period of days. And they feel this calling towards the cliff edge. And that calling is inviting them to jump off. And there comes a day when they kind of run towards, they run away from over a period of time. They run away, run towards, all this kind of stuff. There comes a day when they back themselves, they take that leap and they back their wings, or they bet on their wings. And some of them make it and they soar and they fly, they can fly for weeks on end, and they become who they are through that leap. Some of them fall to their death, But I believe we're called to make that jump, to back ourselves. And I invite you to do that. And hopefully this presentation, hopefully this quick video has been helpful in inviting you to think about some things that you could do to back yourself a little bit more, to invite you to choose to change, to choose to lean into the uncertainty, to sail over that horizon that lies in front of you, using your emotion to signal off, something is calling me. I'm drawn towards this, or I'm feeling a sense of frustration and containment around staying where I am because I'm driven towards more. I invite you to back yourself. You're capable of it. I totally believe in the possibility of you growing in perpetuity forever. And based on this video, I'd love you to think about what's your 1%. What's the 15-minute a day change in behavior that you could do based on this video? Is it build in more time for recovery? Is it accept your emotions and your thoughts as they show up and take that as an invitation to recover, to recharge, to re-energize, to accept change, to accept that you are changing? I'd love to know. I'd love you to send me a message if and when you get this video and you watch it. I'd be really excited to hear what your 1% are. And I always get asked to recommend some books. These are some books that have had a profound impact on my life. There's some really cool ones here. I would love you to take a look. Let me know if you read any of them or enjoy any of them. And as I mentioned, I'm Philip Brady. My business is Vitamin P Coaching. I focus on physiology, passion, and purpose with the leaders and the companies and the teams that I work with. And I'm really glad that you watched this video. I hope it was useful. I wish you only the best on the adventure of life. Much love. Thank you for watching.